Good evening, everybody. It is 7 p.m., September 15th, or September 18th, 2023. I'm calling to order a meeting of the Human Affairs Committee in the Aldermanic Chamber. Madam Clerk, would you please call our roll?
Alderwoman at Large, Shoshana Kelly.
I'm here.
Alderman at Large, Melbourne Moran Jr. Alderwoman at Large, Gloria Timmons.
Here.
Alderman Patricia Klee is here, and Chairman Alderman Thomas Lopez.
I'm here.
And you have four of five, you have quorum.
Also in attendance?
Also in attendance is Mr. Bill McKinney from the Building Department Manager and Mr. Julian Long from Urban Programs Manager. And I'm sorry, Kevin, sorry, from the Nashville Police Department.
Okay. All right, so now taking any public comment on items we're going to be discussing at the committee meeting. Don't actually see any members of the public here. Next up is discussion.
The city's approach to recovery housing.
Mr. McKinney, if you'd like to come up to participate. So I'd invited the building department and other city departments to come in and talk about specific areas such as this because in working with the different collaborative efforts to try to engage people who are unsheltered and do outreach and coordinate multi-departmental approaches to things, we were also looking at some commonalities, and it became evident that we don't actually have any kind of mechanism for formally tracking what constitutes a sober housing program, at least in those particular programs where we were discussing it. We don't exactly have a census, we don't necessarily have good collaboration, so we thought it'd be a good idea to start with what does the city do. We did invite Gatehouse to attend and Public Health as well. There were some scheduling miscommunications, so we're going to try to have that conversation in October, but for now, Mr. McKinney, I think it would be just a good idea to talk about how the city approaches these situations and what our practices are.
Excellent. Thank you, Chairman Lopez and members of the committee. I really appreciate being able to be with you this evening. As we all know, drug and alcohol addiction continues to be a serious problem in New Hampshire. And it's important for communities to do what they can in order to provide and promote what services are available. Treatment programs are available, but often there's a long period of recovery after treatment. Often a recovery program is very difficult to locate. Recovery programs are very much, in my mind, like physical therapy after surgery. This is what recovery homes provide, and is reassurance and forward progress. No treatment actually occurs in recovery homes. Treatment is done prior, and it's completed, and the individuals are then move into recovery homes where they transition back to a drug or alcohol-free life with support from peers. The need is great, but the availability is limited. Between 2015 and 2017, national departments began encountering a new type of housing coming to the city. That was recovery housing. The use of an existing building or to house several people who are in recovery after drug or alcohol addiction. Building and fire codes do not define recovery homes, and as such, the use was very difficult to establish. They're not recognized in either code, and zoning doesn't recognize it very well either. At first, our city departments treated the uses of recovery homes as boarding or rooming houses, and in those cases, it requires sprinklers and fire alarm systems due to the number of unrelated individuals living in one dwelling. This can be a very costly retrofit and cost prohibitive to recovery housing, to a recovery home. Due to our use classifications, city departments started experiencing less new recovery homes coming to our city, or so we thought. We soon discovered from our fire and EMS partners that recovery homes were still coming to the city, but we just weren't aware of them. Essentially, what was happening was recovery homes were going underground. This was a more dangerous concern to us than sprinkler systems. The Department of Building Safety, the Fire Marshal's Office, Code Enforcement, and our Planning Department all put our heads together and worked to figure out how to best permit and treat recovery homes without violating existing codes or ordinances. We determined that the codes refer to family or related when classifying buildings as single or multifamily. However, through our research, it was very difficult to find a clear legal definition of family anywhere. The codes do not define it. Based upon our review of the living arrangements, which we visited several of the recovery homes, and how recovery homes operate, it was determined by our departments that those residing in these homes were like very like a family unit. They live as a family. It was determined that occupying existing dwelling units as is was permitted without changing the use classification of the homes per the building code. An internal process was developed that guides our plans examiners on how to treat recovery homes in both existing and newly proposed buildings. Very few people know, but it's a violation of the American with Disabilities Act to not permit recovery homes or to reclassify the use of those buildings. In addition, we've worked with our partners at the state, and there's now a state amendment to the fire code that permits the New Hampshire State Fire Marshal's Office to issue a variance from sprinkler requirements that are found in the fire code. One of the criteria, as long as certain criteria are met, that variance can be granted. One of the criteria is certification, which has strict requirements to address life safety. Certification allows for random inspections of the homes by the certifying agency. Certification provides a level of comfort to code officials, and currently, and we're hoping for more, but currently there is one agency that performs certifications for recovery homes, and that's the New Hampshire Coalition of Recovery Residents, NHCORE. Because of our approach in Nashua, code departments now have a very good working relationship with the recovery home providers. And throughout the state, with many of our meetings we've been to, we're now considered a model program for others to follow. As of today, we have 28 certified homes. 8 of those are female only, 19 are male only, 1 mixed, and 1 LGBTQ. For a total of, this provides for 377 residences. That's not very many for the problem we're seeing in the state. Also, as of today, there are 5 other homes that are working with NHCORE to become certified, and another 6 that are proposed for our city. When it comes to certified recovery homes, we have received no complaints from a properly managed and certified recovery home. If we are receiving complaints, it's because it is not certified and they're not operating by the same standards. With those cases, we refer them to NHCORE and we get them working with NHCORE to become certified and follow their standards. We continue to work with our state agencies and organizations such as the State Fire Marshal's Office, NHCORE, New Hampshire Planners Association, among others. We're looking at additional amendments to state laws, codes, and zoning to address the shortage of recovery homes in New Hampshire. And that's my history of recovery homes in Nashua. I would suggest that we possibly have another meeting, and I'd invite Kim Bach, NHCORE Executive Director. She was unavailable this evening, but she's a great person to listen to. Her is a wealth of information about recovery homes. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, we did plan on having Gatehouse and Public Health here, as well as I've been talking to another sober housing program coordinator as well. Mm-hmm. And so we did expect to have them here tonight, but if we do move it to October, we'll have another opportunity. I know Harbor Homes is opening up some new ones too, so being able to talk about basically what kind of resources are available for people, what kind of resources they might need as programs to improve outcomes and all that kind of stuff, is not necessarily going to be in the code enforcement realm, but I think your input would definitely be helpful for it. Particularly, I speaking for myself, I appreciate that you remembered to talk about what the basic practices and functions of recovery programs are, because I kind of assumed everybody knows. One of the concerns that I had was particularly what constitutes one. Is it somebody who just is renting out and says, this is a sober housing program, you can't drink while you're here? Or is it an organization that's running it, there's oversight, there's supervision? And I think you answered my question pretty effectively there, where you acknowledged that the sprinkler system and the variance application does allow for that kind of connection and oversight, and I think that's important, so that organizations that are trying to do this, or people that are trying to do this, are connecting to larger resource networks. So is it fair to say that if code enforcement becomes aware that you're having multiple people living in such a boarding situation, that it doesn't exactly qualify as a boarding house, but does look recovery focused, then you also educate them as to what the resources are?
We do. We again, we refer any of the non-certified homes to speak with NH Core, get educated about, what their standards are. Nothing requires them to become certified, but it's really a good process to go through. And again, from our point of view, because the way NH Core operates, that they do unscheduled visits to make sure that the homes are being kept up well, that the home policies are being followed correctly, that there is no drug or alcohol use at all in the home or with their residents. What we find is it's they tend to have at least two people per bedroom. Works very well because they support each other when they're in that time where they're having some difficulties with their addiction, or are still recovering from that addiction, which some people may never fully recover from it, but with the support from their peers around them, that's what we feel really makes the family unit that they have in recovery homes.
It's also really important to note, and I'm glad you brought that up, that when we look at like the 30-day programs that people might have heard about in the public, those were basically dictated by insurance. There's no medical documentation saying that anyone can fix anything in 30 days. There are different types of detox and medical withdrawal supervision periods for different substances, but when it comes to the types of behavioral interventions and even case management and structured peer supports, everything points towards that taking much longer than 30 days. And that was something we were running into a lot with when we were organizing the Safe Station program, was that all of the infrastructure for how to support people beyond that initial intervention didn't really exist. So recovery housing, sober housing, those are alternatives as long as they're meeting the need and they are putting the needs of the participants first. Were there other members who have questions?
Thank you, and I do remember when this was up in the State House and conversations being had, and my first inclination was, oh no, we're gonna have a bunch of people here and we're not gonna have all these. But then the more I talked to you and others, I realized how important to have these variances was. So I appreciate all your hard work and everybody else's. And I also did not realize that it was a violation of ADA to stop recovery homes. So thank you for that piece of information as well. I worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs started back in the early 80s, and I worked at the Bedford VA, and we had a very robust recovery treatment program. So we had a treatment program inpatient that truly lasted almost 21 days. And then we moved them to, we called it the house. And it was a recovery home. At that point, they were there for 6 months. And then they dropped it down to 21 days. And much like what Chairman Lopez just said, we actually had more failures because of it, because they didn't have what came after it. So you may not be able to answer this, maybe an answer that we have to do for Kim Bach. These recovery homes, is there a particular time frame? Is it just 30 days, do you know, or do they, until they can get a job and get out on their own and so on? Is it
The majority of the residents that we deal with, and with the recovery homes and certified homes, we classify them as what we call non-transient, which means the residents are there for more than 6 months.
okay?
So
Good.
it's an extended program, and it gives them a lot of support.
Good. That I really love that, because I found that when they dropped it to a 21-day program at the VA, we were seeing them just coming back in. And it was just a never-ending circle, so I'd love to see this. And Mr. Chairman, to you, do we want to say that we will have maybe Bill, Ms. McKinney, as well as the others on the 16th of October that are supposed to be our next meeting?
I mean, you're invited. I'm not going to tell a staff member
No,
just to show up.
I know, but he might have some good input when he has Kim Bach, is that her name, from New
Kim
Hampshire
Bach,
Court?
yes.
Okay.
Let me just see if the 16th would be open.
But anyways, that's all that I want to say. I do appreciate all the hard work.
This might be a question for the next month, but in terms of criteria, is the relationship between the people staying in the house and the program that's running it, whether it's a program or an individual, is that a lease or is that a program enrollment?
Excuse me,
Is the relationship between the person staying at the house, are they considered a lessee or a lesser, or are they considered like a program participant, so they're not necessarily protected from eviction, there isn't that kind of agreement level?
I don't know all the legalities of how they do that. We refer to them as residents.
Okay, my suspicion is it might actually vary from program to program. And as I've seen them represented in the community, some places have an organization behind them and are definitely like, this is our program and we'll put a sign up and you're staying at our program and here's the list. Some other places may be attached to an offsite location, like there may be a detox program or intervention center elsewhere, and this is an extension of that. This is where they come for the longer term, grounding and longer term support services to kind of get their vocational development back on track, or whatever other associated factors might take longer. But then there's some places that are just like, I'm a landlord and I want problem-free tenants, so I'm gonna restrict and say, you can come here, but you can't drink just because I don't like drinking. Is there any kind of prohibition against a landlord telling their tenant what they can and can't do under those circumstances?
It is their home once they're into their dwelling unit. With recovery homes, they have strict rules. If you violate the rules, then you are asked to leave. They try very hard to work with all of their residents, but yeah, they have a very strict no alcohol, no drug policy, use at all. So.
Okay. Like I said, I'm thinking of more informal situations where someone says, okay, well, you can stay with me while you're getting clean and whatever, but then, the honeymoon period's over and it's not that simple anymore. Or even somebody who, like I said, wants to rent out, but is very definitive about what kind of tenant they want. I mean, if it's their home and they didn't sign anything prohibiting or agreeing to work in a program per se, then later on saying like, no, you need to leave, seems like it would be a pretty messy proposal. But that, again, I think is probably better answered by the actual programs, because I want more information on what's available in the city and what kind of stuff they do. And then I want to encourage any kind of collaboration that is possible with each other and then with the city to encourage those positive outcomes. I think what your department's doing, particularly in the philosophy that you approach it with, where you recognize that we don't want them to go underground, we don't want to not be collaboratively working with them, and we do recognize the need. I think your approach is very sound, but obviously difficult to navigate sometimes.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the committee?
I just have one question and I want to make a comment. I think the program is really good, but I want to know, one, the success rate of this program, and it have to be some type of rules and regulations or to be chaos. So although you want to be collaborative with the patients or whatever you want to call them, I call them patients, but I don't want to use the wrong terminology. But I think you have to have some type of support system there, and some type of rules and regulations where they can't do certain things, or those cause a whole destruction or downfall of whatever you're trying to do. If some people can do these things, so you have to have some rules that apply to everybody. Okay? That's number one.
But that may be beyond, I'm sorry, not to speak out of turn, but that may be beyond municipal authority. Like I know one of the worst kept secrets in like emergency shelters is if somebody feels like they're being mistreated or treated poorly, they can complain to the state BEAS, and then BEAS has to investigate it and find out exactly what's going on. But I don't know about an authority on that scale with regards to these programs, because we're talking about some that might be actual programs. It might be a 501c3, they have insurance. Some may be organized by a church. Some may just be organized by a group of people that are trying to, help each other. Is that fair?
Is what fair, sir?
That there's different natures of organizations on a fundamental level. Some of them may be more formal than others.
Again, that would be for more legal people to explain what the limits are to some of those organizations. But I mean, I believe any organization can set its parameters for what it expects from its, clients.
Clients, okay. That's a
That can
term.
get complicated because I can go start a 501c3 with my 3 friends, have 2 of them decide they're no longer going to be on it, and have like a year-long grace period where I'm the only one running anything. Not a best practice. And I think that's something we should keep an eye on, because where it might be somebody trying to do good when it comes to like maybe a food pantry or something, they're collecting things, they're doing their best, and then things just don't work out with their board members and they have to go re-recruit. On the other hand, if you have something where people are living in a program day to day and the financial decisions and the policy decisions are not necessarily getting the same kind of supervision, there's not very good oversight in a lot of organizations that are doing that kind of stuff. There's like no minutes in their meetings, there aren't policies, so I think an organization can mean a lot of different things. Are there any other questions? Alderman Kelly, no thoughts?
I'm good.
Dane, no? Okay. All right. Well, thanks for your time. We appreciate you from me.
Excellent.
No, thank you. Just said
I do have a couple of handouts here if I could leave them with you.
Yep.
And I think it helps to explain the certification program for NH Corp.
And as long as well, without objection, we'll just accept those and place them on file
Yeah.
too.
There's a few of them. so-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure-
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trish. Do you want the extras done?
Keep them here. For next.
For the next meeting.
If everything shows up.
What I'll do is I'll put them here.
Would we like to move on to communications?
Yes, communications from Julian Long, Urban Programs Manager, regarding Community Development Block Grant CARES Act reallocation dash HVAC projects. Do you want to read the other one too? From Julian Long, Urban Programs Manager, regarding Urban Programs Department updates, August 2023.
Okay, so without objection, we'll accept those communications and place them on file alongside the one we just accepted. Unfinished business?
There is none.
New business resolutions.
R 23-153, relative to the acceptance of up to $425,000 from the New Hampshire Department of Safety Homeland Security Grant Program.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to recommend, final passage, I guess, yes.
Okay, yep, we can make the motion to recommend final passage. Do we have someone to present on that?
I'm sorry, I'm always so not sure of your title. Are you called officer or?
Yeah,
Officer, okay, thank you. Sorry, Officer Pasillo.
I mean, probably just introduce yourself when you start speaking to the transcriber. Yeah, feel free to grab a
You
seat.
want it?
No, you can come over here during.
As long as no one's in the seat, yeah.
well, thank you for having me. So the amount that we're looking to get right now it's just shy of 290,000. I know it said 425. One of the grants we applied for, we thought we were getting about 330,000, came in at 230,000, and that is the, see, I have 3 different grants here. That's the opioid reduction grant. So that's the one we use for the lengthy drug investigations. It's the code name for it's been Granite Shield for the last 5 years or so.
I think you need to speak into the mic a little bit.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Directional mic, sorry.
yeah.
And point it right
No,
at
you
your
don't
nose
push
and it
it, nope.
works.
You just have to speak
Okay.
right at it.
The other 2 grants that we're looking to receive are also through Homeland Security. So Homeland Security, because of COVID, held funds and then released all the funds this past year. So 2001, 2002, 2003, and 2021, 2022, and 2023, we just received this year. 23 and 20 were under the $25,000 threshold. 21 was approximately $31,000. And this money is gonna be used to purchase 2 drones that will be used strictly for our SWAT team. The drone capabilities are able to keep the members safe. It will be able to, the technology on these drones will allow the drones to, some of the things are, we have drones right now, but they can't do hallways. They get sucked up, the technology, this one doesn't want to get sucked into the wall. They can cut through glass and they can operate themselves and they can stay untethered for hours. So if they have to do negotiations to get a barricaded subject out, they can do that. So those are the 2 drones looking to get. And then the other grant is for robots, they're called. They're cameras, again, with 2-way capability for communicating with the person inside an area. And you can throw them into the room or throw them into a window, whatever you need to do. Again, keeps everyone safe. There's no interaction really besides this robot. And that's what they're going to purchase 2 of those. And then obviously the $230,000 is for it's strictly to, right now we have an uptick in methamphetamine, so it's for methamphetamine and opiates, and it's in collaboration with the Hudson Police Department too. So starting whenever we get their funds, it usually runs, the last few years it's been running from January through June, where the drug unit goes out and does their surveillance and where we know the hotspots, they'll get many type of crime tips on, and they'll investigate those areas for drug activity.
So that last category, you're not literally buying opiates and amphetamines, you're paying for the investigation.
Correct.
Maybe the extra personnel.
I said that I misspoke, I apologize.
Figured to clarify. And then the drones, we all know about the giant drone, which is like just sits over things with like the stroll and looks super impressive.
Yes.
Yeah, these are little ones that would go around in hallways and help with like,
Correct. Yeah.
safe engagement and intervention. Probably would be nice to be able to get a look around the corner and make sure there isn't like someone's grandma walking through or whatever.
Exactly.
And then the other one is just like cameras like that you can, like baby monitors you can chuck in there that you can talk through.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Baby monitors?
Yeah.
Can I have a question?
You have 2 questions.
Alderman Timmons?
Oh, thank you. Chair Lopez. I think that's pretty cool. That's number 1. Second, I was watching, I'm always watching something on PBS and all those other National Geographics and stuff like that. But I saw a water drone. You ever considered that?
We could use something like that. We do have we have a dive team. We're the one of only 2 dive teams in the state. So we usually work the grant program is I usually solicit the specialty units to see what type of technology they're looking for, then I start looking for grants that way. We try to get them communications. Right now they use like a tethering operation system, which is kind of scary. You figure with all this technology out there, they're using a tether to say, pull me up or pull me down. And then, a lot of times they're in, and you can see the waters here in Nashville, so it's very dark and dreary, and so they can't even see in front of them. But we got denied, it was a small grant, it was $11,000 denied the communications. I'll bring that up to them though, I didn't even know, I mean, I know there's so many different technology, but.
No, it's really, really cool because it's flying in, then fly down, and it illuminates inside the water. So, murky water and stuff, you could see stuff. I think that's the coolest thing. And I was like, we need that.
Oh, wastewater treatment has one, but it's kind of dirty.
Huh?
The wastewater treatment has one, but it's pretty dirty. It crawls around in the sewer lines to figure out where the cracks
Yeah,
are.
see, But the point is,
So we need
I think
2.
we need everything humanly possible to protect our citizens and the police department, actually. So,
It does
Think
seem
about
rather
that.
unfortunate we would send a team of officers down with a tether to go find like something someone chucked over the river,
Yeah,
Send a
usually
robot.
it's evidence recovery that they'll do.
Yeah.
Alderman Kelly, sorry.
Oh, thank you. I had a couple of questions, but
Sure.
the first one was around the drones. So I know that drones have changed and you have to actually have a pilot's license.
Yes.
So has there been incurred like costs for your
So
police
all-
officers to learn how to do that?
Yeah, so all our drone members, team members are licensed pilots through the FAA. They go through a certification course. So that's, everyone that's on the team currently right now is able to fly the drones. So they're all licensed pilots in a sense, so.
And if I could follow up,
Mhm.
I was happy to hear that you're getting some money for the opioid crisis. Not to make you stay here for an extensive amount of time, but I was wondering, how much does $230,000 sort of get us in terms of this epidemic and where are we?
So funds, in a good way, though, the funds were cut for harm reduction, so it is going towards treatment and stuff like that. So it's like, I think last year the state got $1.2 million. This year they got $833,000. So we went from $330,000. It's been going up, so since I've been the grant manager, it's been going up usually about $20,000 each cycle. So I thought we were gonna go up, and then come to find out it went down $100,000. So usually, the way I do the budget was to have guys out 8 hours a week for 33 weeks, starting from like November 1 through June 30th. So that's how they work it. They, like I said, they work with Hudson. Hudson sends over anywhere from 2 to 4 officers to assist. We'll work in collaboration with them. We'll go over to Hudson and help them, or they come over here, help us. Hillsborough County Sheriff's been really good. They've been sending deputies down to assist too. So there's always, unfortunately, there's always work for them, so.
Just to clarify, did I hear you state that you have seen the trend to be transferring money from harm reduction into enforcement?
No,
or-
went into harm reduction.
Okay.
So it's coming out of enforcement and going to, so,
So it's going the other way.
it's going the other way, yes. So
They haven't
it's-
decided to actually just fully fund what's needed, just keep dividing it. and
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
us-
exactly, yeah.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Alderman Clee?
Thank you. I'm sorry that we're losing money, but I'm glad to see that it's going to
Correct.
the harm reduction.
Yeah.
That's obviously a really good,
Mhm.
let's work on treatment and so on, rather than having to do the enforcement portion of it. But, and I want to thank Alderman Kelly. I did not realize that they had to have pilot licenses.
Yeah.
That was a good
Yeah.
piece of information to learn too, and Alderman Timmons about the water drones. But my confusion is, so for this particular resolution, it says up to 450. So what we're looking at is the 230 for this year. And then you mentioned the 31,000 for 21.
So it's all been released at the same time.
Okay,
So all the funds are now, so what we were doing is, the way these grants come out, so I guess the way that Karen explained it to me, because we've never done it this way in the past,
right,
the fire department does it,
right,
they'll get an allotment of a pool of money to say. So we picked our Homeland Security grants because they're time sensitive, and plus, we only get them for a certain amount of years. Even though we didn't have the grants for a year, our time was already started ticking. So we're trying to get these grants out and spent.
okay,
So that was the reason she went with Homeland Security, so we can access the money. Usually, I come in and have a grant, and if you guys accept the funds, then we'll spend it right away.
right,
This way, so we have up to, it's only gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be roughly about $290,000 on this, that we're requesting that we can access right away.
so 290? And
Yeah,
then,
I think it's 230, 31,000 and change, and then 34,000 and change, so
okay,
295-ish.
okay, perfect, thank you.
Any more questions from the committee? All right, then, motion on the floor is to recommend final passage of the acceptance of up to $425,000 from the State of New Hampshire Department of Safety Homeland Security Grant Program. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we will recommend final passage. Thank you for
very much your
coming,
time.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Alderwoman.
Alderman Lopez?
Alderman Kelly, sorry.
I'm wondering if we need to amend to the appropriate amount, because he said it was higher in our
No,
documentation.
it says up to.
Up to, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
that was, I realized that I saw that it said up
Okay.
to. So
You're on.
I knew we were good as far as that's concerned.
Right.
So we
Perfect.
just kind of put it through as there was a possibility.
Maybe
Just
they'll
wanted to make sure
accidentally
we
send
were
us too
on the
much.
up and up, so you guys get the.
Not probability, possibility, so
from it.
yeah.
They
So if
can-
they want to send us more, we can take it.
Yeah. Kevin, maybe we can get that water from
Yes, I'll actually talk to the captain tomorrow.
Actually, a good idea.
Thank you. I know, I like
Thank
it.
you.
Next up is,
R-23-156, amending the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Consolidation Plan for fiscal years 2021 through 2025 to amend Round 4 CDBG-CV funding under the 2020 CARES Act. Mr. Chairman, I motion to recommend final approval.
Mr. Long, would you like to come and present what we're doing?
Actually, final passage.
And feel free to have a seat at the thing if you would like.
We don't bite much. I like it when it all stays on one side.
I can't tell.
Nobody likes this side.
I know.
Well, it seems like it's easier to come on this side.
I don't understand
At
why.
least I can look in one direction and my limited sight can be
It's closer.
focused.
Yeah,
that's why
I
look
almost
at-
have to be like,
Yeah, sorry, you're just beyond the perimeter.
it's all good, it's all good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So you may remember that in summer of last year, 2022, we allocated our Round 4 CDBG-CV funds. That's through the 2020 CARES Act. We did such a good job with rounds 1 through 3 that they gave us more money. And those were awarded to a variety of nonprofits, mostly operating expenses, but there were 3 construction projects that received awards. They were all for HVAC improvements, and that was United Way, Nashua Children's Home, and the Youth Council. Subsequent to the award, when we began the process of drafting our grant agreements for all the recipients and beginning the environmental review, we learned that for the United Way's project, it was actually not their offices specifically that was targeted for the HVAC work, but one of the tenants in the same building. I want to say the salon that rents from their building. Unfortunately, that is not eligible for CDBG. We had to rescind the award very regretfully. And so we are proposing that the 20,000 plus that was originally awarded to United Way be reallocated to the other 2 HVAC projects, both of which have come in above the grant awards that they received. Nashua Children's Home quite a bit above, the Youth Council a little bit above.
Alderman Kelly.
Thank you. So if you split it evenly, does that, hit both of their marks, or does it leave the children's home still not hitting it and the other one kind of full? Does that make sense? My words.
Yes, ma'am, it
Okay.
does. And we're proposing the split this way because of the nature of the work that needs to be done. Children's Home needs more than Youth Council does for their space, so that's why it's disproportionately toward the Children's Home.
Okay.
This is so both projects receive as much as they need. It's still, Nashua Children's Home is still a little bit under what they need, but it's under 2,000, and they can bridge that gap.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
The Children's Home is a frequent flyer on the CDBG list, but that's because their buildings are all 100 years old. So
Yeah.
everything we can do to help them make their HVAC costs more economical is more donor dollars right in the hands of making sure kids are getting the resources and supplies that they need. Youth Council, can you tell me, are they still renting? Are they still located on Pearl, or did they move?
Yes, I believe they're still renting their space.
Okay, so that's a little bit more of a complex situation. I guess I'm a little curious how that works if they're renting the space, but now we're funding improvements to the space. What if they stop renting the space?
I would need to check my files, but generally what we do in cases where an organization is leasing versus owning their property, we ask that there be a long-term lease in place. I want to say that's the case for Youth Council, but I would need to double check to ensure that that is the case.
Okay, I mean, if I were talking about any other therapeutic program, I would also point out that they can recoup revenue pretty quickly through billing versus the Children's Home, which probably doesn't have that revenue structure. but the youth council works very much in the community and probably doesn't actually always get that. I know a number of their case managers are grant funded and they offer services that are well beyond immediately billable services. So I think if we can help them, we can help them. I just want to make sure that the help we give them is tied to their continued occupancy of that location. Any other questions from the board? All right. Motion on the floor is to recommend final passage of R 23-156.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And motion carries.
Thank
Thank you.
Any new business ordinances?
None?
Any tabling committees?
None.
General discussion?
None?
Seeing none. Public comment? There is no member.
No, there is
Oh, there is.
someone from the public.
I just wanted to offer to,
Name and address for the record, please.
Julian Long, and I work here,
Okay.
so 229 Main Street. If the committee would like me to do so, I'd be happy to reach out to the New Hampshire Council on Recovery Housing to invite them to present before you. I realize that many of the questions you had for Mr. McKinney, I believe that they would be able to answer for you.
Yes, thank you for the offer. Like I said, I think my intention is, as chair, is to make sure we are doing our due diligence. If any kind of resources are needed from the city, we know what those different parties are, but also we're making sure that the different authorities and resources are talking to each other so that we can not have to be involved.
I'll see their availability for some of your upcoming meetings.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any remarks by the alderman? Let me please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to announce to the public something that I shared here earlier, and that is that the National Historical Society is looking for people to interview relative to World War II. Could be stories from World War II by those that served or by family members who stories have been passed down to them. Memorabilia, anything that they'd like to share. They are creating a World War II room that they are setting up, and it's quite nice. But they want to be able to publish stories and information about those that served and experienced even that time. So,
Just a quick announcement on my part, because I know you guys are going to think of it, but the YouTube goes out tomorrow, unfortunately. But to anybody who's watching, please spread the word, and to the alderman sitting in the chamber, tomorrow is a special election in Ward 4. We have a primary so we can get a state representative in place. We need a good turnout. Our poll workers are going to be there all day from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So please come out and vote if you're in Ward 4 at Lead Street for our future state representatives. You can register on the spot if you're recently moved or if you haven't been pre-registered for voting, and get it done before November 7th.
Alderwoman.
I was
Alderman
gonna
Kelly.
say the same thing, and I was also
That's
gonna
what I got
thank you
there
for the information about the Historical Society, because I have 2 family members who have interesting stories, so I'll see what I can find.
Thank you.
I heard there might be archival footage.
Alderman Timmons.
Oh, and thank you, Alderman Lopez. I want to correct something I misspoke on the September 13, 2023 Board of Alderman meeting. I'm going to say it at every meeting. I misspoke regarding the $2 million at Wednesday's Board of Alderman meeting. My intentions was to say that you are asking the city for $2 million in your ongoing lawsuits against the city. And I will state that at every meeting.
The
So
lawsuits
I
that
misspoke.
were dismissed as well?
Pardon me?
The lawsuits that were dismissed?
He mentioned the lawsuits that were dismissed.
Well, it might have been dismissed now, but I mean, this is what I know that she asked, okay?
I wasn't
And
sure
I
because September
misspoke.
15th, we got a list of those actions that were dismissed
Yeah,
by the judge because some of them were just,
but the
they
point
made
is
fun of the
she
judge
asked
having
that.
lunch, you know, kind of ranged around topics.
The point is that she did ask for $2 million. That was my issue, that she asked for the $2 million of taxpayers' money.
Mhm.
And it should be, in transparency, the citizens of this city should know that she did request that money, whether it got dismissed or not, is irrelevant. But I did misspeak. She did ask for $2 million. And I'm correcting that, and I will correct it at every meeting.
Okay.
Until we get to the Board of Alderman meeting that, on the 20, whatever date we got, 28th,
Okay.
next one.
Well, get the word out. Any
Okay,
other comments?
But, thank you.
All right, without any more remarks, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. And then Kelly.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7:45.
Meeting is adjourned at 7:40.
45.
Yeah, 7:45.